When you visit an amusement park, most usually an immersive theme park, you'll notice distinguishable differences in certain sections. Usually this is a different theme or a different focal point that the area of the park is focusing on. Here's an example. If you've ever been to Disneyland, you may recognize these names: Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, Adventureland. These are all areas of the park with a different theme. When I enter a themed area, I'm looking to be taken to another world, and each of the lands on this list do exactly that. For a while, I've been holding off the idea of ranking my top 15 favorite theme park sections, but after seeing that no other coaster YouTuber had done this, I decided to make it happen. Just know that these rankings were extremely difficult because there are so many different park areas that I love so much. I also wouldn't be surprised if I forgot a couple since there are so many good ones. Now, a few disclaimers before we get onto the list. One, a lot of theme park lands are nearly replicated in other parks, so I'll only be allowing the best example of one particular land to be on this list. If that sounds confusing, don't worry, I'll elaborate as we get through the video. Also, there is a huge honorable mention that I have for you guys because I have not actually seen it thus far. This is Diagon Alley at Universal Studios Florida, which is an immersive compact section of the park. The reason I haven't been here is because it didn't exist when I went to this park as a kid, and because I've never had a reason to visit this park as a coaster enthusiast. They have a number of pretty intriguing dark rides, but by no means are they worth checking out over Islands of Adventure next door. When I'm back in Florida next month, I once again will not be going here because if I spend the money to get in, I don't want any attractions to be closed, and Revenge of the Mummy will be doing exactly that. So hopefully the next time I'm in Florida after this, I'll give the park a go, but no promises. Getting on into the actual list is a land that very few of you are likely familiar with. Tofteville is a western themed land located at Enchanted Forest in Oregon. Due to its location and small ride lineup, the park receives little attention, but considering this isn't the only section of this park to make this list, I think it deserves more recognition. Tofteville was named after the owner and creator of the park, Roger Tofte, and it actually shares a lot of similarities to the famous Ghost Town section of Knott's Berry Farm. The theming is superb, there's all sorts of cool fairy tale theming, and the wooded setting is gorgeous. The only reason it doesn't rank higher is because there aren't actually any amusement rides in this particular section. Though taking a stroll in this land easily makes up for it, it's surprisingly immersive and I can't wait to visit it again this year. I'll tell you what though, you can absolutely say the same about Storybook Lane at the same park. This section is what Enchanted Forest is most well known for, as it's littered with all sorts of interactive nursery rhymes. You'll find a number of statues, walkthroughs, mazes, exhibits, all while you're nestled in the lush forests of Oregon. This is yet another beautiful display of Roger Tofte's dreams and imagination. Heading on to the more well-known areas, we've got Avengers Campus at Disney's California Adventure. This is the newest area of the resort and has actually been the center of a lot of controversy. But if you ask me what I think of Avengers Campus, I'll tell you it's pretty awesome. Certainly not on the level of many other Disney projects, but it still is really cool. My favorite things to do here are to check out their two signature rides as well as check out their Spider-Man stunt show. One thing I love about this section is the park new Guardians of the Galaxy didn't make a whole lot of sense in its location, so they actually built this land around it and it's a seamless transition. Along with that masterpiece of a ride, there's also Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure, which has received a lot of unnecessary criticism in my opinion. It's not the best ride in the world, but it certainly adds to the lineup. I've also noticed some cool food offerings here, though I haven't actually tried anything yet. Eventually when I get back here, I'll be sure to do just that because it only adds to the long list of things to do in Avengers Campus. Heading on over to Florida, let's talk about Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom. This is another somewhat controversial Disney section, but let me make something clear. I'm not a huge fan of the Tomorrowland area at Disneyland, which is why I think I was so impressed by this one. Everything from the theming, the atmosphere, and the ride lineup is superior here. I absolutely love this park's Space Mountain as well as Carousel of Progress. It's such a unique experience. Disneyland just can't counter with that. They are also home to the iconic People Mover, which seems to have a prominent following for some reason, and Buzz Lightyear also adds a bit as well. These four rides combined with the incredible futuristic theming make this a shockingly fantastic land, and not one I was expecting to be a favorite of mine, but it was. Remaining in the same state, let's head over to my favorite section of any SeaWorld park. This is Pantopia at Busch Gardens, Tampa. It seems to me like they were going for an African village type theme, and I'd say they nailed it with all the colorful buildings and stunning architectural designs. In addition, this land is home to a couple fun rides, but most notably Falcon's Fury is one of the best drop towers in the world. This ride takes you 335 feet in the air and tilts you face down to the ground before dropping you down to earth. It's a surreal experience encompassed by a surreal land that I'd highly recommend you check out. Cracking the top 10 is an absolute icon in the world of theme parks. This is Ghost Town at Knott's Berry Farm. And you know, even though this is one of my home parks and I walk through this place all the time, I never get tired of the theming. It seriously looks so cool and feels like a legitimate real-life ghost town. Everything from the music, shops, saloons, and guest interactions make this such a special place. Plus, when you factor in the rides, Ghost Town is also where you're going to find the best coaster in the park, Ghost Rider, as well as Pony Express and Calico River Rapids. And then if you consider the history of this land and how it's one of the reasons Knott's Berry Farm even exists, yeah, it's a pretty special and unique place. A land that really surprised me is not one that I spent a lot of time in. This is the Asia section of Disney's Animal Kingdom. This is honestly one of the most immersive lands I've been to. Everything from the initial presentation outlooking Expedition Everest, the atmosphere and the theming is jaw-dropping. I also love how forested and beautiful this park and section are. It just feels so different from the other Disney theme parks. In addition, Expedition Everest is an awesome well-themed roller coaster with lots of surprises throughout its layout. Remaining in the same resort is Frontierland at Magic Kingdom. Between the two at Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, this one is my favorite because of the ride lineup. Unlike Disneyland where you have a separate Critter Country section for Splash Mountain, the Magic Kingdom has it alongside Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. But it's not just the attractions, attractions, it's also the food. I had some really good food here, and picturesque water bodies, plus it's impossible to forget about Country Bear Jamboree, whatever your opinion is on it. Now, while I gave Magic Kingdom the edge for Frontierland, there is no way for Florida to counter with Disneyland's New Orleans Square. This is one of the most nicely laid out picturesque areas of any theme park in the world. And something else I love about it is that you can only find it at this park. Sure, there are similar style sections at Tokyo Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, but it can't be compared to this. New Orleans Square is home to two of the best Disney attractions ever, Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion. It's also home to some exceptional Disney food and is a stone's throw away from Splash Mountain. Everything about this land is virtually perfect for what it's trying to achieve, but the top 6 really is where we take a step up and get into the lands that seem to transport you to another galaxy. And yes, that pun was intended, but we'll get into that in a bit. At number 6 is Cars Land at Disney's California Adventure. It's unanimously considered to be one of the best Disneylands of all time, and it's really easy to see why. It's themed after Monument Valley in Arizona, hence the name of the rock formation's Ornament Valley. It's one of the most striking centerpieces of any land in the world, especially with that artificial waterfall shooting down the rocks. Another thing everyone loves about Cars Land is Radiator Springs Racers, one of the most popular attractions in the Disneyland resort. The ride was beautifully integrated in the valley and weaves in and around the rocks. Oh, and the food here is to die for. If you hit up the Cozy Cone Motel, you'll find some awesome mac and cheese and ice cream and these delicious bread bowls shaped in a cone. I'm really grateful to live close to this park as it's really given me the opportunity to explore the ins and outs of this section. Breaking the top 5 is a land that I unfortunately didn't get too much time to explore, but judging by what I did see and what I've seen on video, World Showcase at Epcot is easily deserving of a top 5 spot. It's almost crazy to believe that this is only one land because the whole area is ginormous. World Showcase spans 1.3 miles with 11 country-themed pavilions featuring native cuisine and attractions. Most recently, there's been an expansion of the French Pavilion, which has seen the addition of Ratatouille, a welcome addition to this part of the park. There's also Norway, home to Frozen Ever After, and Mexico, where you can find Grand Fiesta Tour and some delicious food. Some other renowned pavilions include Japan, Italy, Morocco, and the United Kingdom, which aims to depict England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland to an equal measure. This is a brilliant idea for a theme park land, and one that I can't wait to see more of when I eventually get back to this park. That being said, I couldn't find it in me to put it above one of my all-time favorites, Fantasyland at Disneyland. The atmosphere around this area is unparalleled to any of the other sections on this list. The sounds, smells, and presence of Walt Disney can truly be felt here. It's almost hard to explain. Fantasyland begins once you enter the iconic Sleeping Beauty castle and is home to so many classics. My favorite is Matterhorn, which lies on the outskirts of the land near Tomorrowland. This world's first attraction was revolutionary when it opened in 1959 for using a tubular steel track. Another fan favorite is It's a Small World, but I'll be honest, I really can't stand that ride. It's probably the one thing about Fantasyland I don't like so much. Then there's 5 true dark ride classics that I all really enjoy. We'll go for my favorite to least favorite. For the longest time, my answer would have been Mr. Toad, but after the refurbishment of Snow White's Enchanted Wish, they turned it into a glorious old school dark ride. It retains the classic atmosphere of the original while modernizing the outdated technology and empty rooms. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is still my second favorite here, with its chaotic plotline and ridiculous ending where you are literally sent to hell. Then there's also 2 underrated gems in Pinocchio's Daring Journey and Alice in Wonderland. I'll admit I'm not too much of a fan of Peter Pan's Flight, but I still make sure to ride it every few visits to the park. This is arguably the most magic you'll feel in any theme park land, which is why it's my current number 4 land I've been to. I absolutely love this place. Now, the top 3 is ridiculously difficult to decide on since all of these can easily be flipped around. Matter of fact, I switched some of the spots after writing this script, that's how close it was. But I think I'm fairly certain that, in my opinion, number 3 is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland and Disney's Hollywood Studios. The 2 areas are almost completely identical and are home to the same 2 attractions. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance is arguably the best ride ever built, and it's easy to see why. It utilizes Disney's trackless technology to the fullest, along with an epic plotline. That's not to overshadow Smuggler's Run though, an awesome interactive simulator that's most immersive in the pilot position. Another thing I love doing here is grabbing a blue milk. It's an outstanding fruity drink that I can't explain in words, you just have to try it for yourself. Then of course you can't talk about Galaxy's Edge without pointing out the visuals. From the second you enter the land, you feel like you've entered an entirely different theme park or planet for that matter. The rock work was done perfectly, they built a whole freaking Millennium Falcon here, and there's tons of stormtroopers wandering around. It's just awesome. But believe it or not, it is not my favorite Disney section. That honor actually goes to Pandora, the World of Avatar at Disney's Animal Kingdom. This is another land that I didn't get a whole lot of time to explore, but I did get the gist of it and was blown away by what I saw. First of all, the presentation with the floating mountains and alien wildlife is insane. It is exactly like what you see in the Avatar films. Also, this section has 2 of my favorite Disney attractions of all time. Flight of Passage is the world's best simulator ride by far. It features some of the most realistic movements, beautiful visuals, and immersive effects of any dark ride out there. Na'vi River Journey isn't to be overlooked either. This is one of the best boat rides out there. The animatronic at the end is the most realistic, detailed animatronic I've ever seen, and the ride has a perfect music score. One thing I didn't experience but have heard a lot about is the food here. The crazy food and drink offerings that they have in Pandora is insane from what I've seen. It really doesn't get much better than this, but depending on the day, I might even consider it my number 1 spot. Now with that being said, coming from the perspective of someone who loves Harry Potter or even understands it a little bit, I would just have to give the top spot to the Wizarding World at various Universal parks. But particularly, I'm going to be highlighting the one at Islands of Adventure in Florida, which has the best ride lineup of them all. This one is home to Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, one of the most impressive dark rides in the world. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure may have an obnoxious name, but it's easily as amazing as the dark ride in roller coaster form. The freaking thing has 7 launches, a backward section, a drop track, and dozens of animatronics. As far as I'm concerned, it may be one of the most immersive coasters on Earth. Lastly, Flight of the Hippogriff is a good option for younger guests working their way up to the bigger rides, but I think what the dagger was for this land being my favorite was the food and drinks. Most notably, I'm talking about frozen butterbeer, though I have heard similar things about their butterbeer ice cream that also looks very, very good. Seriously, this is the best beverage I've consumed in my entire life, not just at a theme park, but ever. The last time I was at this park, I actually bought 2 of them, which is insane because they're crazy expensive, but I couldn't help myself. Also, I have to admit, it would be a crime to talk about this land and not mention the theming. Just look at this place. Do I need to explain why it's so insane? Considering the fact that I know almost nothing about Harry Potter, but I'm putting this at number 1 says a lot about it in my opinion. So if you're into theme parks, this is the magnum opus of immersive land, and I'd highly recommend you check it out. But as long as you're a fan of it, I can't help but recommend all the lands on this list. They are magical places to the point where you could forget about all your worries and focus on what you're experiencing at that very moment. After all, that seems to be the core reason many of us aren't enthusiasts. Before heading out, feel free to give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video because it took literal days of non-stop work to produce. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.